we're in England, going to do some armour. Now, when I was younger, we used to sell a lot of armour, and we were quite accustomed to dealing with it. So I'm going to try and give you a crash course to armour if you're an antiques dealer who wants to know a few tips, or if you're a collector wanting to buy armour. The thing about armour is going right back. There was a time when the armaments makers, the metal workers, were making things like guns, cannons, steel plate. They would be the same people who made the engravings on the locks of the guns. They would be the people making the engravings on the armour, the people who were making clocks, and the people making engraving plates. So that there was an industry right at the beginning, the 1400s, for example, and the craftsmen were not just making plate armour and swords, hats and stuff, helmets. Of course, there's Roman armour, there's Greek armour, but the armour that I'm accustomed to is medieval, late medieval, through to modern. And when you're buying armour, the first tip is, if you buy a suit of armour, it is a 99% chance that it is not original armour. It is 99% chance it is Victorian or Georgian armour, if you're buying a suit of armour, made to look like the original armour. The original armour was the armour that was made to be worn in battle. But rather like the RAF now, or the army now, a soldier would have had usable armour for fighting in, and they would have had dress armour for running around on horses and parades and showing off. So when you're looking at armour in the museums, it's very likely to be the real thing, of course. But the very posh gold, well engraved armour often isn't field armour, which was the stuff they actually used to fight in. Often it was dress armour. So you've got suits of armour, you've got dress armour, you've got field armour, and you've got the later copies. Some of the later copies are themselves antique. So you can buy a piece of armour from the Victorian era or the Georgian era, which is a copy itself, but it's still antique and it looks antique. And we used to know a maker of armour who would work for the Royal Armouries, and he used to make replacement armour, and he used to make replica armour, and he used to make substitute armour and do the missing parts. And if you're, for example, buying articulated armour, like a lobster tail, it's often inside joined by leather straps or links, metal links. So these craftsmen, when they were making the copies, used traditional methods. They would use basically blacksmith's forge equipment to make this new antique armour. Nowadays, the costume industry, the reenactment industry, the film industry makes this stuff out of plastic resin, and it is extremely lifelike. So when you're buying armour, as I say, there's a range of prices, there's a range of origins and uses. We would get, in England 20, 30 years ago, we would get Civil War armour, we would get French Napoleonic armour. There was loads of it, and there's still loads of it now. And in England, I remember having back plates like this one. This is a back plate, not a breastplate, it's too flat. It's a back plate. And I remember having the Civil War breastplates, and they would often have a belly with a peas cod effect tip, and they would often have a proof mark where a musket would be shot into the plate of armour to check it doesn't split. And the Civil War armour would often have a hat with a lobster tail and a nasal and the ear flaps. But in Germany, they had the same armour as in England at the time. So a lot of German armour was passed off as English armour. So that's the sort of starting point. The next point is, if you do get an original suit of armour, which is unlikely because the museums will get there before you and the good dealers will get there before you. If you think you've got a good suit of armour which is original, you will probably find out of the 1% which is original armour, there's another 80% which is called composite armour, where the suit of armour is made up of bits from other sets. So you might have a composite set of armour made of original armour. You might have a composite set made of antique, recent antique, modern replacements. And to the untrained eye, it's absolutely impossible to tell the difference. In simple terms, if it's a Victorian piece of armour, you're going to find the edges are unkind and sharp, and the folded metal is cursory. On proper field armour, the edges are usable, they won't cut you, and the shape is much better. And you've got to have your wits about you when you're, as I say, when you're buying armour. This one here is a back plate. It has got a leather inside. When I bought it online, I thought to myself it was Napoleonic because it has very much that look of brass studs, brass rim, colour, shape, and I thought it was almost certainly French 19th century. Could be. I thought maybe 1850, something like that, because we've had them before, lots of them, and often you get mechanisms where the front and back would lock together with a buckle, a sliding plate, a sort of a catch of some sort. They would lock here with a decorative plaque, a decorative latch. They would lock on the side, so you've got a pin for holding a buckle. You've got a sliding hole for holding another type of buckle. So I thought this was French. Having had it delivered, I've noticed inside there is this mark here, this arrowhead mark. That's a British mark, and it is going to be a Household Cavalry backplate. If you look at the Household Cavalry in England, it's mounted cavalry, and you'll notice they're sitting down on a horse. The legs are up high, and the breastplate, this is a backplate, the breastplate only comes to the middle of the stomach, and the same with the back, because if the front breastplate and the back plate, the cuirassiers, the cavalry, if the cuirass, when it's together, is too long, they can't sit on the horse. And they're very short in the stomach and in the small of the back. So this is a cavalry, a British, English cavalry official War Department backplate, which has got an original leather lining. Most of the armour doesn't have, most of the army seat will not have that. Nowadays the backplates in the Household Cavalry are really shiny. I have a feeling they're chrome plated now. They might just be polished steel, but I think in truth they're going to be chrome plated. The pitting on this is even, and the quality is superb. It is probably going to be quite an early one. There's lots of recent ones, because even if you're serving cavalryman now, you'll get your own cuirass, and you do see sort of fairly recent second-hand cavalry front and back plates. This one, though, I do think is going to be 1850 or something, because the patina is so good. However, if you're buying replica, they can make it look like that. If you're buying Victorian, late Victorian or 20th century copies, they can make it look the same. You've got to be careful. So, talking about armour, this can be hung on the wall. It is go above a door. You can have a couple of spears through it, a couple of swords, as is the cliche, and it looks rather nice. A lot of people don't like this stuff because it has a killing, military, gruesome element to it. But this and a helmet are nice decorative items. When you get into the gauntlets and the feet and the sort of shoulder pieces, they're very hard to display in isolation. Look quite bad actually in isolation. They only look good. Those extremities only look good with a whole suit. But this can be used as a decorative item, and it doesn't stand up, this one, but some of the other French ones do actually stand up. The French ones are often with brass rosettes and these lovely buckles, as I say, on the front, and they have often marks of where they were made, and they're not necessarily all dated, but there's often marks of where they're from. And when I started doing the armour, the Napoleonic armour was frowned upon, and if you bought a piece, the trade would laugh at you, because there was so much of it around 30-40 years ago. But nowadays there's less and less of it around, but it's still really good value. So we've talked about armour, we've talked about the pitfalls. One point in passing, if you're getting into bladed weapons or guns or cannons, you're going to have problems posting them in England for certain. You're going to have problems with customs because a lot of the shippers don't like touching it. And personally, I don't do anything bladed anymore or anything gun anymore. When you get into deactivated weapons and you get into flintlocks and percussion and all that stuff, it's started to become a difficult market. But with plain, inert armour, hats and helmets and backplates, front plates, breastplates, I think that this is going to be advisable as a more reliable thing to have and to collect. Okay, I hope that's been interesting. Thank you.